love story from the past. I'm an old man now, but I remember my teenage years very well. I grew up in a small town where everyone knew each other. The streets were quiet and the air was always fresh. Life was simple, but it was good. During high school, I met a girl named Lily. She was the most beautiful girl I had ever seen. Her eyes sparkled when she laughed, and her voice was soft and sweet. Lily was not only pretty, she was also smart and kind. She helped me with schoolwork, and we talked about everything, our dreams, our fears, and our future. We became best friends. Every afternoon after school, we would walk by the river. Sometimes we would sit under a big tree, watching the water flow. Those were the happiest days of my life. But life does not always go as planned. After graduation, Lily received a scholarship to study in another country. She was so excited, but I was heartbroken. I didn't want her to go, but I knew she had to follow her dreams. On her last day, we stood by the river one final time. "I will write to you," she said. "And I will write back," I promised. We hugged tightly, and then she was gone. At first, we wrote letters every week. Her stories were full of excitement about her new life. But as time passed, the letters became fewer and fewer. One day, they stopped completely. I missed her more than words could say. Years went by, but I never forgot her. I often wondered if I would ever see Lily again. Life has strange ways, I thought. Maybe one day our paths would cross again. Years passed and life went on. I finished my studies and found a job in the same town. The streets were still quiet and the river still flowed, but something felt missing. Lily's absence was like an empty space in my heart. I tried to move on. I met new people and made new friends, but no one was like Lily. Her smile, her laugh, and her kind heart stayed in my memories. Sometimes I walked by the river alone, thinking about the days we had spent together. One day, while cleaning my old desk, I found her last letter. The paper had turned yellow, but her words were still clear. "Always follow your dreams, but never forget where your heart belongs." I read the letter again and again. Suddenly, I felt a strong desire to find her. Was she still living in that faraway country? Was she happy? Did she ever think of me? These questions filled my mind. I decided to write one last letter. Maybe it would never reach her, but I had to try. I wrote about my life, my memories, and my wish to see her again. I sent the letter with hope in my heart. Weeks passed and there was no reply. I told myself to forget about it, but deep down I still hoped. Then, one evening, as the sun set over the river, something amazing happened. It was a warm evening, and I was sitting by the river, watching the sky turn orange and pink. My heart was heavy with thoughts of Lily. The sound of the water brought back memories of our laughter and dreams. Suddenly, a young man walked toward me. He had a letter in his hand. "Are you Mr. Thomas?" he asked politely. I nodded, feeling confused. "This is for you," he said, and handed me the envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it. The handwriting was familiar, soft and elegant, just like Lily's. I read the first line, "Dear Thomas, I never forgot you." My heart raced. Could it really be her? The letter told a story of her life abroad. She had become a teacher, helping children in need. She had travelled to many places, but always carried our memories with her. She wrote that my letter had filled her with joy and surprise. "I want to see you," the letter ended. "If you feel the same, meet me by the old oak tree next Sunday at sunset." I couldn't believe it. After all these years, she was coming back. The days passed slowly, each one filled with hope and nervous excitement. I thought about what I would say, how I would look, and if she would still recognize me. Finally, the day arrived, and as the sun began to set, I made my way to the oak tree. I stood under the old oak tree, my heart beating fast. The breeze was gentle, and the leaves danced above me. Memories of my youth flooded back as I waited, wondering if Lily would really come. The sky turned golden as the sun began to set. I looked down the path, hoping to see her familiar face. But only silence greeted me. Doubts crept into my mind. What if she changed her mind? What if something stopped her from coming? Just as I was about to give up, I heard soft footsteps. My heart skipped a beat. I turned, and there she was, Lily, standing a few steps away. She looked older, of course, but her smile was exactly as I remembered it. Neither of us spoke at first. We just stood there, eyes locked, taking in the years we had missed. Then she said softly, "Thomas, it's really you." Her voice carried the warmth of every memory I cherished. I smiled, my voice shaking. "It's been a long time, Lily." She nodded, her eyes glistening. "Too long." We sat on the bench by the oak tree, talking about everything and nothing. Time seemed to disappear, just like it used to when we were young. It felt as if fate had brought us back to the place where it all began. As we sat under the oak tree, the world faded around us. The village sounds became distant, and only her laughter filled the air. We talked about our lives, the places we had seen, the paths we had taken, and the moments we had missed. Lily told me about her studies in the big city and the friends she made there. She spoke of challenges, victories, and dreams. I listened, hanging on to every word. She had always been strong and full of life. That hadn't changed. I shared my own story, how I stayed in the village, taking care of my family and the land. Life had been simple, but not easy. I told her about the lonely evenings when I thought of her, wondering if she ever remembered me. "I did," Lily said softly. "I always thought of you, Thomas, but I was afraid too much time had passed." I shook my head, smiling. Time didn't change the way I felt. Seeing you here now proves that. The sun dipped lower, casting golden rays through the leaves. I felt like a boy again, sitting beside the girl who had always held my heart. Fate had finally given us a second chance. The sky turned shades of pink and orange as the sun slowly set. We sat quietly, letting the moment sink in. I couldn't help but smile as I looked at Lily. Time had passed, but some things never changed. "I'm glad we found each other again," I said, my voice steady. "It feels like a part of my heart has come back." Lily nodded, her eyes shining. "Maybe it was meant to be, Thomas. Maybe all those years apart led us to this moment. Her words filled me with peace. Life had taught me many lessons, but none were as clear as this. Love had its own path, and sometimes it took the long way home. "I want to make up for the time we lost," I said with determination. No more wondering what could have been. Lily reached for my hand. "We have today, and that's enough to start with." The village bells rang in the distance, calling people back home. But for me, home was right there, sitting under the oak tree with the woman I had loved for so long. As we stood to leave, I knew this was not just an ending, but a new beginning, a chapter filled with hope, love, and all the moments we had yet to share.